Finally. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. So,
Welcome,
thank
ma'am.
I just
Ananya,
want
ma'am, go ahead.
for patiently waiting with us. Uh, and thank you, Anupriya, for patiently waiting while we were trying to figure out this.
Yes, a little glitch, but all good now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, Mans, over to you.
All right. So I'd like to start off by asking Ananya, ma'am, to give us a bit of an introduction to what do we mean when we say body image.
Right. So, body image issue is something that we keep on talking about, and we often find it difficult to define. To give a very simple definition, body image is the way you perceive yourself. But it is actually not as simple as the definition sounds. It is also way more complicated. It is also inclusive of, how you perceive what your body is capable of doing, the way the culture comes in, how your culture, your people
Absolutely.
around you are seeing you, how you think that, whether you're fit or not, whether you're capable or not. So it has a lot to do with how you think about your body and the capacities of your body through your lens, and you're also trying to perceive it through others' lenses.
Okay. So I hear you say that it has to do a lot with how somebody perceives their body, what the body can do, what it cannot do. To that end, I'd like to ask Anupriya, ma'am, about how body image and fashion interact.
I think fashion has a big role to play when it comes to body image because since our childhood we are imbibed with this, sort of unreal standards of beauty through the fashion industry and the beauty industry, where we always it's always advertised that women who are fair, women who are slim, women who are thin, and has a nice figure are like always up there on the billboards and on our screens. So we grow up with this sort of thing imbibed in our minds. That's what the society has culturally always told us that that's how a woman should be. And I think everybody has that somewhere deep inside them, and most body image issues stem from that sort of background in which we have grown up. So fashion industry has a big role to play, and in today's world, when social media and media in general is trying to make people more woke about concerns, mental health issues, and everything. Fashion industry is an industry which has to actually act in the real field to show that no, like those standards of beauty are not any milestone to go by. Like it's everybody is beautiful as it is. Like there's no right or wrong that you have to be a certain way or you have to look like a certain way, because every people are different. I mean, that's what makes us human. That's why we are in this world, because we are all different to each other, and that's what makes each of us unique, each of us special. So it's not a rat race to be look the same as a model or an actress or a celebrity. So we have to celebrate our own uniqueness in every way that we are unique. And fashion industry and the beauty industry, these are some of the industries that have big roles to play when it comes to putting that thought across or trying to change that cultural thought process.
So, if I was to gather what I understand from this, is that there are certain ideals of beauty, of how we're supposed to look, that tend to homogenize what is supposed to be unique about us, how we look about and how we think about ourselves. So, just curious to understand what kind of body image issues do you usually see in the clients that you see when they think of dressing or when they think of, how to express themselves through fashion?
I think mostly people are like, as one of my audience has sent in a question in the morning, that people generally, while buying dresses or clothes, we are like, it should make us look slim. That is like a very common thing to perceive that I have seen in my 10, 11 years of doing business. So that is one of the most general statements that we get to hear, and that in itself has an underlying body image issue. Like if you are your body is the shape that it is, like why should you expect clothes to make you look a certain way it should just fit your body nicely, and it should just highlight your body the way it is, right? It's not that a particular piece of garment has to make you look slim, or has to make a color has to make you look fairer, or a cut which has to flatter your curves or something like that. So that is one of the main issues that I faced as a business while doing, while making garments for women. And which is why I have, as a brand, I have always advocated we don't generally make off the rack sizes, because I personally believe that all bodies are different to each other. And I always prefer to make clothes that fit a particular person's body. So I always prefer taking a particular person's measurements and making the clothes for their body, because as I say, we are all different, so there cannot be one size that fits all, right? And that's a policy that I very truly believe in. So that is something that I have always done as a fashion brand. And again, I have seen a lot of statements like, I don't wear sleeveless because my arms are fat, or I don't wear an empire cut dress because it makes this part look broader. So there are a lot of notions that we I don't wear this color because it makes me look darker. So there are a lot of these imbibed, deep rooted notions that the society has put into us. And it just comes, even like the most educated, the most woke of people might say all this, because that is general to us. I mean, we don't find that it's something that certain people say and certain people don't. It's something that I have heard from all sorts of people. So I think that's something that the basic thing that needs to change is in our society, like the kind of thought processes that the society has sort of always put upon us. And that is the main thing that needs to change, and also supported by the fact that fashion brands should generalize, like shooting regular women and not just models. Like, why do catalogs and ads have only like specific sizes of models on them? Like, it should be, obviously there are a lot of brands and companies which are trying to be size inclusive. They are showing all kinds of bodies, they're showing all kinds of sizes, but that is something that is should not be like an exception. I mean, that should be the rule, right? But sadly, which is not the case.
So I'm picking up on how inclusivity should be the rule. We instead have these deeply imbibed notions by the society, which sort of go back and forth between us as individuals and the society. Somewhere we're feeding them, and somewhere they're feeding us. But to that extent, I'm curious to know, and this is particularly to ask Ananya ma'am, about how a lot of us have certain ideas about how we want to look or how we want to present ourselves. So when does it become a body image concern? So when or how does one realize that they're struggling with their body image?
Right. Thank you for the question. And I think this is a question many of us were probably asking even while listening out to what Anupriya was saying, which she shared some of the narratives which we often tell us that we have to look like this. And to be very honest, it's a very thin line. It's sort of like a cut. You never know when you're going to the other side. But if I really have to identify some of the major indicators, one is, of course, how much you are, sometimes there's an obsessive checking and rechecking of different parts of your body, like the weight. Maybe you're constantly checking your weight every single day, you're checking your weight, or maybe that, that extra gray hair that you've started showing, constantly checking whether it's gone, whether it's chiseled, chiseled, the extra fat. So it's all about checking and rechecking. And when you do it obsessively, to the extent that your consciousness about your body becomes, it starts interfering with your work, with your relationships. So you are not able to, for example, focus on the relationship per se, but you're more focused on how you're looking when you're with that person. That is when probably we feel that there is a body image issue. And then the other indicator is how are you talking to your body? If there's a lot of harsh words, negative words being used, constantly being used about your body, oh, this is terrible, I look so bad, oh my God, like this is, like, I know that the kind of language, kind of dialogue we have with ourselves has a very important role to play. So I know that many of us often tend to do it unconsciously, or sometimes We also internalize what others are saying. But that dialogue is very important. And also, so even like you pointed out that we try to buy certain types of clothes. So some of the clothes might be to hide our bulges, so baggy
Yeah.
clothes, or the colors which are like trying to make you look slimmer. So when you're excessively doing, when you're not being able to choose something based on comfort or based on your liking, but it's
Yes.
always about hiding your body. That
Yes.
avoiding looking at your body, when you are not being able to look at your body in the mirror, or when you are taking a bath, or you're not even in a private space, you're not being able to look at your body, and you're feeling a lot of negative emotions, that is when probably you start thinking that you're inching towards the other side of the line and you're having some body image issues.
So what I'm picking on is that when it starts getting obsessive, when it starts getting excessive, and when it starts interfering with other aspects of your life, and you become more concerned about how you're looking and how you may be perceived, is when you're starting to probably go on the other side. But there's one thing that specifically stood out for me was that phrase that you talked about, that is hiding your body or avoiding your body, which brings me back to what Anupriya ma'am said about inclusivity and being okay with or having customized expressions of yourself. So to that extent, my question to Anupriya ma'am is that what can the fashion industry do to ensure that they're not influencing or advocating or maintaining these specific ideals for beauty or body types?
I think the fashion industry can really do a lot, especially through the awareness that social media can create. I think the fashion industry can actually, sort of stand against the, first of all, stand against the, age old notion that we have to look a certain way and our skin has to be a certain color, and, we have to always be like the beauty industry thrives on like creams that go, removes your wrinkles, and hair color that hides your grays. So all that, needs to somehow change the narrative. It can be there, the product can be definitely there, but then it should be up to the person if they want to use it, or whether they are being peer pressured into, using that certain product. So there's a difference between the two. So that needs to be done. The fashion industry, as I said, a lot of brands are doing, but it needs to be more mainstream. The inclusion of different kinds of bodies in photo shoots, campaigns, magazines, even in films and television, where a lot of influence, a lot of which influences the general, mass population of the world. So the kind of standard of beauty of celebrities, like of course, if they are maintaining their body or they are looking pretty, that's fine. But it shouldn't be like a standard that I have to also be like that. So if it becomes the day, and I mean, somebody would come and tell me that I don't want to hide my fat arms or whatever, or I can, if I like a dress, I will wear it irrespective of how it looks on my body, like how I perceive it to look on my body. Sometimes I have seen that a dress might be looking nice on a person, but then, like I said, maybe it's sleeveless and they'll be like, no, I don't want to, show my arms. Or maybe it's like a slightly body fitting and they don't want to show their curves. So that is not, if you like it and if you feel confident enough to wear it, that should be the, thing that should decide whether you want to go for that product or not. The most important thing that the fashion industry can do is to make sure that women are confident in their bodies. If and that has to come from showing different kinds of bodies on the media, on billboards, on TV screens or computer screens. I think that's one thing. And secondly, they should always, all brands should by default make like all kinds of sizes. I understand maybe brands don't want to, as a small brand myself, I sometimes don't want to make all kinds of sizes and stock up on it, because I don't know what size will sell, and then I'll be left with that stock, which is again not good for sustainability. That is why I always try to make made to measure orders, which reduces wastage. I don't have like a lot of dead stock left behind, which I don't know what to do with. And also it, fits the wearer's body the way it is. I mean, even if two people who wear say medium size clothes, both bodies can be extremely different. Somebody can have like, curves but be a medium size. Somebody can be very thin but still have like broad shoulders and broad upper part and be a medium size. So all bodies are different, and I think the fashion industry brands or small businesses, especially small businesses, because they have the capacity to bring about changes right now. Mostly they are run by young, sort of our kind of generation, millennials, Gen Z, whatever. So they have that capacity and that kind of thought process to bring about changes. So they should be more try to make create that awareness that we don't want to make like off the rack like standard sizes, because all bodies are different. If you want, we can customize to your body shape. And they should definitely try to include more different kinds of bodies. Maybe I always try to do my photo shoots. Like till date, I have never done a photo shoot with a model per se. Like I always try to shoot my clothes on like regular people, like my own clients or my friends or my family. That way I feel my brand also makes a better connect to the audience, because the audience can then see, okay, this person's body is similar to mine. So maybe I know that how this dress will look on this kind of body type, which is not always the case when we see them on model sizes, right? So I am like, no offense to models, that's their job and they have to maintain their body in a certain way. But that should not be like always what we are aiming or trying to achieve, is what I'm saying. So the fashion industry can definitely help in doing that. And of course, they can come out with more campaigns to increase awareness, like also like magazines or sort of media houses which have a lot of reach and a lot of influence over the mass population. They should start talking more about body image issues, because as Ananya said that these are little things, but when they pile up, they start you know uh, getting to you mentally, right? And then we start having these mental trauma, these mental obsessions. I have had clients who have come in and said that I've gained weight, and oh, I don't know, like all my clothes don't fit me, and I don't know what to do. That which is why I always leave room in my clothes. I'm like, okay, bring them to me. I'll alter them for you. It's okay. It's your clothes. You might gain weight sometimes, you might lose weight sometimes, but that does not mean that you should stop wearing your favorite clothes, right? So all this is something like little things that can contribute to changing the basic mindset of people. I know it's easier said than done, because it has been ingrained in us since like years and years, like, so that's like sort of who we are as human beings, right? And it's not easy to change for sure, but little things can be done to sort of at least make people more aware that these can lead to mental health issues, which is a serious problem today. If you want to wear a dress or not want to wear a dress, okay, that is not like a serious problem. But if these body image issues lead to your mental health, deteriorating mental health, and sort of make you lose interest in work, lose interest in food. Like another of my viewers had given a question about how body image issues come from, like, is related to food. So somebody might be a foodie but then don't want to eat because they think they'll get fat. So as long as you are physically healthy and don't have any medical issues, you should not have any problems with how your body looks. Like, you should be at peace with your body and be confident in your body, however it is. So these are some of the little things that brands or fashion organizations can definitely do to start bringing about the change.
So I hear that there's so much space for the fashion industry to inculcate so many values, that there's empowerment, there's choice, there's also sustainability, if even from the business's end or in terms of, whether your
Yes,
clothes are sustainable for you to wear. You
yes,
don't have to keep being reminded of the changes that are happening in your body whenever you have to go buy new clothes, you have to let go of your old
absolutely.
ones. And there's so much of space for fashion industry to actually use the same media campaigns and the same awareness strategies to
Yes,
actually change the narrative. To that extent, especially when we're talking about this whole idea of narrative, again, it's a very socially imbibed thing. Um, so I was wondering if, and specifically, and I want to answer this, considering that so much of it is societal, um, how can the societal or systemic factors play a role in supporting the individual in dealing with these issues? Sort of take the opposite route and try and change that narrative, help change that narrative.
Right. First of all, I would definitely like to congratulate Anupriya for, practicing what she teaches. So when she was saying that I do not,
Right.
because I have seen her, like if you also go to her page, you can see all her models. Like you, I always felt that the term model, it's like modeling how you would look when you wear the clothes, right? So it's
Yes, yes,
idolized artistic body structure there. And
yes,
how can we relate when you see something on the picture, then where you're wearing it? So I think this is what, and she's doing it not only as a part of a fashion industry. This is her small step towards the making people's body more inclusive. I think when you're talking about society, can take these small steps to really work on that. We can really think how we can do that. So I have just reached home, like home in the sense I was outside. I just come to my family. The first comments I usually get is like, "কত মোটা হয়ে গেছিস?" ও মুখটা এরকম হয়ে গেছে, which means essentially that, oh, you've gained weight, oh, you've grown these pimples. So I think the first thing that we need to learn, first we need to unlearn that these things are important, and
yes,
then learn.
absolutely.
You can ask that person very simple thing, how are you? Instead of pointing out something they're already knowing and giving that importance, because this entire thing of important is a condition you learn when you're associating it. That okay, weight, a particular, let's say X weight is bad. So how am I knowing it? Because I'm conditioned to associate something. Let's try and uncondition. So if you are meeting somebody as a like anybody, like anyone, let's try to know more about that person than to point out those things. Because that is how we are unconsciously making us, the person, and the society learn that these things are so, which is not. Next is, uh, like I said, the body complex thing. Like it's not something you can. It's not like I like my body. It is also about whether my family, my society, my sometimes it can also be about faith. So many, like whether they are accepting me. So again, that is where the acceptability comes in. If you try to be more open-minded and standards, because I don't know what is a beauty standard. Personally, and as a therapist, I always try to find these answers. Like, for example, the eyebrows. 10 years back, it was like thin eyebrows was the fashion and was something people wanted to, and now these are like thick eyebrows and people are wanting it. So the standards are constantly changing. What we wear is
Yes,
constantly changing. In certain parts of the world, a particular weight is really appreciated. In certain parts of the world, it is not. So we need to understand that we live in a very diverse world where everything is beautiful. And if we can start accepting that individually, then we can start doing that at the level of family and friends and at the level of society as well, because all of us have certain responsibilities. So what Anupriya is doing at her level, maybe each and every person in their own work can incorporate it and ask maybe a little bit of reflection. How are we doing? Am I doing something that can impact a person's body image? You must remember that body image issues are not only bad at that point of time. It can lead to not only eating disorder. That is the most common thing that we have. Yes, it starts from the point where I'm dissatisfied with my body, but it can also lead to depression, anxiety, so many other mental health conditions. Because
yes,
we are teaching that if you have this kind of body, you are loved and accepted. If you don't have it, you are not loved and accepted. You do not belong. So, as a society, as anybody, as an individual, I first unlearn this. There is nothing, love and acceptability has nothing to do with that. Your body is a machine which is giving you so many wonderful things. It is your heart is on your thinking, your doing its job. Looking good is probably the least important, if at all, an important job for your body. It has a purpose which is serving so well. So if we can appreciate that and really love our body, and around us love and appreciate their body, that can actually affect this entire continuum of body.
absolutely.
Anupriya, ma'am, would you like to weigh in on that as well?
I would like to add something to this is that in today's world of Instagram and social media and Snapchat, this validation plays a very big role in how we live our lives. We are constantly, we want to be validated by our audience, by our viewers, by people who are watching our posts, friends, family. And from this comes stems the fact that because we are constantly wanting to be validated, we constantly try to like look our best and post our best pictures online. Like if we take a picture and we be like, oh no, in this I'm looking fat, so let's click again. So this is just like an endless loop that goes on. And as Ananya very rightly said, that the first step is that unlearning, which is the most difficult. Once you unlearn all that has been put into our minds over the years, it will be very easy to accept the new normal. Like what is normal, what we have been taught all these years is not necessarily what is right or what it should be. So that unlearning is the most important step, and which is the most difficult also. I think for us, maybe the millennials, the Gen Z, it's easier for us to accept new things, but especially for the older generations, it's very difficult to unlearn all those stigmas that are there in their mind. As she very rightly said, I think all of us in our lives have at some point of the other been fat shamed by people close to us, like let alone strangers. Like it has been our family who have been like, oh, you're put on weight, oh, your face is looking so round, like do something, don't eat so much. And they say it from a point of care, because they care for us. They think that this is an advice I should give that person, but it's completely not fair, because we it's not, as she said, like I know when I have gained weight, I know that I have gained weight, so I don't need to be reminded about it all the time, right? So in its place, you can be asked like, how are you? Okay, something well medically, like that you have put on weight, like that should be the concern, right? Not that you are gaining weight and what will people say, or you're not looking nice, as we say. I don't think gaining weight should have anything to do with looking nice or looking bad, right? Like these are the basic standards that have been so wrongly like taught to us since our childhood. And that's really sad, but that's true. And that unlearning is what will make or break this whole process for the person.
I absolutely agree with what
Right.
you said, and I just would like to add one more point to that. When you said that, this entire thing, when they point out of care, what
Yes.
showing that concern, of course, that is the intent. But what it also does is also make the other person learn that my body. They don't learn to accept their body. They feel,
Yes. Yes.
and they
Yes.
have to fix it. There is something
Yes.
wrong fix.
Yes.
Instead, if our dialogue is more about accepting the way you are, you look lovely. Oh, this is
Yes.
looking. Also to change the way we are evaluating or looking at a person, because at the end, our goal should be to help the person accept who they are.
Absolutely.
So the way we see this diversity in the way we talk, our voice, we don't do that when it comes to, we don't appreciate the diversity when it comes to weight, height, skin color, and other things. So we have
Yes. Yes.
to accept.
And I do agree because while the two of you were talking, there were so many instances in my head where, people would have, if not shamed, they would have reacted differently if you now looked a certain way that is more attractive, or, they would respond to you a certain way when that happens. So I understand that a lot of unlearning has to do in terms of connecting beyond just appearances, connecting beyond just physical features, connecting on more emotional levels, on a more um, um at a level wherein you're asking people how they are for who they are, not how they look. And to that extent, we've discussed about what the society, how the society interacts with the person. But what can a person who's struggling with body image do when they realize that this is a thing that's causing them concern?
Right. So I think the first thing has like being mindful of how they are speaking to themselves about their body. So we need to first see what we are saying to ourselves. That is the starting point of body image. If we are mindful, and sometimes if we note it down, And for each negative self talk, you can have one counter positive, if you can have one positive thing, that would be a very minimal but very important process, because what we are doing here is also that unlearning we are talking about. So it starts from identifying that this is what I'm telling myself. And then like we have something called a cognitive behavior therapy, where we spend a lot of time in understanding a person's thoughts and restructuring the thought. We try to find out evidences for and against the thought, and then we restructure the thought. If it is, of course, it is to the level that you're not being able to manage yourself, you should seek help from a professional. And the professional can help you restructure your thoughts. But if you're not to that extent of going to a professional, I don't need to go to a professional now, you can probably start by at least asking yourself, okay, I'm seeing that I'm looking terrible and this is such a bad thing to have this bulge. Ask yourself, why is it a bad thing? Just try to find that evidence. And maybe when you look at the mirror, like if you're avoiding looking at the mirror, maybe you start by slowly um, allowing yourself to see yourself and then say something appreciative about your body every single day. So that is like a new learning that you are doing. At the same time, I think I will reiterate the point of the diversity. If we really look around and we see how diverse we are, and we tell ourselves there is no standard. I don't know what a standard it is. I'm reaching this point because I remember I was a client who comes from one of those countries where always see the women look so beautiful, and by all the standards of beauty, she fit in everything. Yet she came with significant body image. And she said, this is how I feel. I feel terrible about my skin. I feel terrible about my hair. I just want to. And she ended up harming herself. She said, I just want to pull out my skin and give myself a new skin. That was how harsh and intense it was. And that made me think in this um, side of, like, I was thinking, like, oh, like she has every tick on the checkbox of beauty. And this is what she's feeling. So we need to first tell ourselves that it's so subjective and so relative. Like it's a mix of both, and there are no standards. Instead, if we start saying that I love my body, I accept it the way it is just a diverse thing. So many different kinds of body that first step. And if you see that you are not the entire way, the way you're perceiving your body is interfering with your work, relationship, overall function, you're harming yourself, you're eating less, or if you're eating, you're sleeping, your overall health habits are significantly determined by how you look. Probably that is the time you should start once with respect.
Right. Considering that we're reaching the end of the time, is it okay if I move to some of the questions that followers have asked? So the first question is actually sort of a doubt. It says that I think body image issues are related to eating disorders. So, ma'am, could you give a bit of insight on
I think we covered that as well a little bit while we were discussing. So yes, it is very much connected. Starts with that thing. Again, remember, like, why is it so important for me that I'm not looking beautiful? Because I feel people will not like me. I will not be accepted. The sense, those needs of belongingness, those will not be ticked. And a recent 2020 study is saying these body image issues are starting as early as when you are 3 to 5 years old. And it gets stronger and intense when you're reaching your puberty or adolescence. So that is a time you probably become more conscious when you're in your adolescent age and you are constantly thinking that I don't have the ideal body. Then you feel that to be accepted, to be popular, which is so important for teenage people, to be popular, I need to have this body, and then people will come to me, they will accept me, and that is when you start doing, okay, I'll eat a little bit. Oh, I won't touch that. Oh, this is not okay. And that is where it's like a slippery slope. You don't even know when you're going down and you're entering that state of eating disorder.
that? So what I understand is that when those concerns about eating is part of how you may look start coming about, that may be one of the first indicators that it's becoming something serious to you in terms of your body. Okay. So the second question we have is the role of family, community, and media in creating body image is huge. So how to ignore them?
I think how to ignore them is a difficult one. One thing is to take everything with a pinch of salt. Social media, when we do this mindless scrolling, 12 o'clock at
Yes.
night when you're trying to sleep, when we always say that, you should think about all the things you're grateful for, read something nice, talk to your family, all we do is this mindless scrolling. And what does it show? It shows people looking beautiful. And we keep on thinking what it's doing is feeding us like, oh, you are inadequate, you're not beautiful,
Yes,
you're
exactly.
not there. So
Exactly.
how to reduce it is basically you have to learn to disengage, reduce your social media usage. If you can't reduce, at least limit the kind of things you're watching or people whom you're following, or at least whatever you're watching, do it mindfully because you need to understand there's a purpose why people put up videos like that. If somebody's showing, and I think Anupriya will be able to add better
Yeah,
to
I
that.
would just like to add one point here. It's not particularly related to body image issues, but I have always felt, and I have done it myself. I always feel that if you think that on social media, somebody's pictures or somebody's life or somebody's posts are making you feel, that sort of inadequacy, as Ananya said, or it's not giving, it's harming you mentally. You're always feeling like anxious, and you're always feeling like, oh, I'm not being able to do that, or I'm not living a life which is as good as this person. First of all, people show the best part of their lives on social media, so it's not like all good. Like even that person has bad days in their life which they don't show on social media. But I always think that's just one thing I would like to say out there. If you feel that somebody's pictures are doing that to you, please feel free to unfollow them. And it's not that you should not continue looking at that. And because we don't realize ourselves how much it is affecting us mentally, or we don't realize the damage it is doing to our mental health until maybe much later. But if you start feeling something like this, please feel free to unfollow them for a few days, like till you get back to that peaceful state of mind, and then maybe you can follow them again. Like there's nothing like you have to follow them all the time, or you can't unfollow them. So I think that's something that people should be aware of doing. Like obviously, I'm sure no, most people don't do that. They just keep thinking to themselves, and maybe they creep to their friends, or this is happening, I'm not being able to do this, or what am I doing, why is my life so like boring, and why is everybody's like else's life so happening. But if you feel that, please, I mean, I'm sure Ananya will agree. Please go and unfollow them, and stop looking at that if that is affecting your mental health. That's all that I want to say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we need to understand is there's a fine line of difference between what an inspiration is and what an aspiration is. So you can be
Yes,
inspired by how somebody is looking, but when you
yes,
have aspiration, so why am I aspiring to be that person? There
yes,
should be some mental filter that we're like, okay, this is something I'm seeing important, and how are you allowing yourself to be affected by what you're watching?
yes,
You often see sometimes, detoxing, social media detox is now a real term which I could ask you. So just disengaging, detoxing, unfollowing, not scrolling, you it's in your control. Some of the things
absolutely.
that your family member is saying is always not in your control. So that you have to stick to always, okay, they're doing it out of care of concern and because they have a standard of beauty. It may not be right. So that is something also you need to tell yourself that it may not be right what they are saying. I have to evaluate. But what I at the end when I'm trying to look after my body, it I feel better about myself, fitter, happier, not about a competition, constant comparison of this person is doing this and this. Okay,
Yes,
so it's more of a personal space of comfort and acceptance. So when again wearing dresses like baggy dresses, and instead you think to what is comfortable for me, not what is always. And now that there is a lot of influence, there are a lot of influencers who are now promoting this. Like when people are showing standards are changing. So just to remind ourselves that just that few steps in our mind, there are no standards per se at the end. How
yes,
about it?
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
also get one question, and I'll just ask this question, and this is for Anupriya. How can
Yeah.
one detangle feeling in an exaggerated fashion, internalized body image?
Come again, your voice was getting a bit cut.
Okay, I'll just read. How can one detangle feeling unhealthy in an exaggerated fashion due to internalized body image standards?
I think that first of all, as I said earlier, it's all about. I mean, it's a part of who we are. We always feel that clothes should make us look like perfect, and that validation that we need from even from strangers. Like when we are, stepping out onto the streets, we always want to dress well because the strangers will look at us and judge us if we are not, well dressed or if we are not looking our best. So I think that whole idea of looking your best has to change. Like you can wear something comfortable and still look your best, or you can wear something that does not conform to standards of beauty and still look your best. I'm sure, I mean, I personally follow a few social media accounts where there are people who are unapologetic about how they dress up, and they may be plus sized and they dress however they like, and I have seen them get trolled for that also, like because there are all kinds of people on social media. So but they still persevere and keep on doing that in order to bring about the changes and inspire at least a few people if they can. So and it's not only about body image, it's also about maybe in today's world it's also about gender roles. Like I have seen people who I have seen men who wear saris. I have seen and I have seen other men who are like trolling them for that. So it's a very, in every aspect of fashion there has been some internalized misogyny, internalized like patriarchal standards that have been set for us, that we have to dress a certain way, we have to be a certain way, we have to act a certain way, and you have to wear like a certain length, or you have to cover yourself up, and like in different societal settings there are different rules. But that's the main point, that there should be no rules as such, because we don't owe our bodies to other people. It's our body, and at the end of the day we should be free to do whatever we want to do with it, however we want to dress it, however we want to step out. Like so it's this conversation like can go into hours if we like literally try to look at each topic which might rise from this one sort of communication. But everything is connected, right? Like we connect like girls getting eveties because they're wearing short skirts. So again, the connection is back into fashion, back to what we are wearing. But it's all like that patriarchy speaking, right? It should not be that way. So I think girls should first of all enjoy wearing clothes, and not always think about what flaws we can hide with it, or whether we can hide our love handles, whether I can hide my curvy hips, whether I can hide my flabby arms. I mean, that should not be the purpose of wearing clothes. The purpose of wearing nice clothes should be to bring joy to you, should be to be able to feel happy and confident in your own body. And we actually, fashion or clothes is a representation of your personality, right? I mean, we have studied fashion history, and in fashion history we have studied that even when clothes were invented back then, it always was invented to be a part of your identity, to be an reflection of who you are as a person, which is why every individual has a different sense of style, has a different way of dressing. So that is the that should be the purpose of wearing clothes, and not like to hide your flaws, or to look as per the standards of beauty that we are taught from our childhood. So that is one thing. Secondly, as I said, fashion brands can help destigmatize those ideas, and sort of bring about a change, make people feel comfortable in their body. Like we see yearly fashion trends coming out, and then when if there are like crop tops in trend, or like, sort of ripped jeans in trend. Like certain people might think, oh, this is not for me because I have a body of a certain kind. But it should not be like that, right? Because trends, a fashion trend should be for everybody to follow, and everybody should be able to enjoy it. So if our mothers and grandmothers could wear sari blouses which are cropped, then why can't we wear crop tops, right? So it's all again coming back to that unlearning of the values that we have been taught, and learning to love our body the way it is, as long as it is healthy physically and medically, is what we should aim at. And I think that will also help us achieve a more better state of mind. And as Ananya has said, it gives rise to different mental health issues, which again, mental health issues as a whole is a completely humongous topic in itself. And the way, society, even in the 21st century, it's like a taboo in the society. We don't talk about it, we don't discuss it with our family or friends. We don't, in fact, there are a lot of instances where the families in themselves are the cause of a person's mental stress, maybe, but they do it unknowingly because that's normal for them to talk like that, to say that, oh, you have put on weight, or to say that, oh, you have been married for so long, why don't you have kids? Like, these are very little things that are very generic in our everyday conversations, but we don't realize that it can have an effect on somebody's mental health, or somebody, the way we think or the way we perceive our own bodies. I mean, this is something that I don't think even strangers in our society can feel free to come and ask, oh, why don't you have a kid, right? You have been married for 5 years, why don't you have a kid, without even knowing whether that person has any medical issue or whatever it is. So all this again needs to be unlearned. First we need to try to learn, and first we need to try to know the person for who they are,
And maybe
and not like, uh,
out
yeah,
that.
not why they are not as per the standards that it should be. When we are talking about body image issues in our society, it also comes from the fact that we are told to look a certain way so that when we come of age, we can get married to a person. We, we hear parents telling them, oh, don't put on weight because then we'll not find a husband for you. And all these are so, everything is related, and everything adds to the fact that you become, you don't like your body, or you become confident in your, you lose confidence in your body, or you don't look like the way you look. So every little thing adds on to it. So this is not how it should be. Like, a person, if somebody wants to marry me, they should look at how I am as a person, and not like what my weight is, or what my size is, or anything, right? So yeah, I think it's a huge change that obviously won't come overnight, but as they say, drops make up the ocean. So it, like, every little thing that a person does, or if we can take the onus of making our family, our friends understand that this is how it should be, and what we have been taught is not, right, or it is leading to mental health issues. If we can take the onus of ourselves to start the communication, to converse with people, or to tell people around us that, this is what it is, then maybe it will spread to, more people, and that's how the bigger change will come about, maybe.
I just had one very brief point to what, because what Anupriya said is so, like, it's resonating with me in very powerful things. Srilak, that's the Instagram handle. He asked particularly about internalized body image, like exaggerated fashion. Bring up. I'll just try to highlight one small thing. What as psychologists we often do when something is like we try to go back to the experience that make you internalize. Try to go
Yes.
back to experiences that is making us believe in a particular way. So if there is a
Yes.
particular body image, like this is the standard, if we ask ourselves, where did this standard come from? And then try
Yes.
to sort of rationally counter it and challenge it, that might be a good way of trying to break this internalized bodies, irrational
I
bodies.
think, yeah, I think again it all stems down to patriarchy, however feminist I might sound, because back then it was the men of the society who had a say in how things will be. They wanted women to look a certain way, and that's how they started to make that like a standard of beauty. I'm sure there was no woman who said that, okay, thin girls is what like should should be our ideal, right? It has to be a man who has said that. So ultimately, it all comes down to being a patriarchal societal thing that has been ingrained in us. So yeah, it needs to be unlearned, of course.
The early experiences. Now we are also talking about the social experience, social uh, events that had led to standards.
Yes, yes.
Important.
So what I hear is a lot of factors that make up this huge social matrix of things that influence how we perceive our body, and that brings me to sort of a brief of what we've understood so far is that body image is a perception of our body, how we perceive our body in terms of how it looks, in terms of its capacities, what it can do, what it cannot do. And when it starts becoming a concern is when it starts becoming obsessive or excessive, when you're constantly checking how much you're weighing, how you look, looking to the extent that it starts interfering with your work, with your relationships, with aspects of your life, and starts taking that energy and attention from you. Um, and to that extent, fashion interacts hugely with body image because it influences our body image so much. It is a very basic aspect of how we want to express ourselves. And when the expression of ourselves is so closely interacting with how we think of how we look and how we appear, it's bound to have repercussions, and that's where the role of the fashion industry comes in to be more inclusive, to have inclusivity as a default, as Anupriya said, that inclusivity should be a default. And when we talk about inclusivity, it also has to be so much about choice that I'm not being pressured into believing that I should look in a certain way. It's so much about empowerment that I have the space and the freedom and the confidence to be whoever I am, have that space to express however I want to express myself. And also in terms of very in specific values of customizing things to people's needs, that everybody is unique, respecting that uniqueness, not homogenizing what a particular body type should look like. And also towards sustainability, where business point of view, your whatever you're buying, however you're trying to fill your wardrobe is sustainable, that you don't have to keep going back and forth whenever you notice a change in your body. Um, and last of all, in terms of individuals and members of the society, things that we need to keep in check is that we're acceptable towards people, that we're connecting with people beyond what they look like, beyond how they look, how they may perceive ourselves. And if we see that happening with us, if we feel that we're starting to get concerned about our body image, things that can help us is for every negative thought, we replace it with a positive thought because there's so much about a body that goes beyond appearance. There's so much that our bodies are constantly doing for us every day. And to accept that and to not, hide our body or avoid our body when we look in the mirror is what can help us. Going back and understanding where this internalized body image is coming from, who gave us these beliefs, and where these core values are coming from, are things that can help us. In case I've missed anything, ma'am,
I
please
would
add
like to
on.
add one point if we can. I think the number of times we meet people and they immediately say, like, they immediately comment on our weight, on the way we look, or on our skin color, or this and that. If the same amount of times people would just come out and compliment you, like you're looking nice today, or your hair's looking nice, or oh, I like, your eyes, or, things like that, little things, it would give us so much more confidence in our bodies, right? It would, I mean, it takes nothing. It would take the same amount of time and effort to say a negative thing as well as a positive thing. But it's just that if people can start practicing that instead of commenting negatively on someone's body, let us find like one positive thing to say. It would be a huge boost of confidence to that other person, right? And it would just change their own mentality so much. I think that's something that we can start doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with what you're saying. Like that small step can uh,
Yes.
so much of.
Yeah.
We have this campaign called Kadam, which is a small
Okay.
step inclusivity, where we all highlight these small things that each individual which can
Yeah.
be. But this is one small step that we can actually take.
Yeah.
And I'll just add one brief point is that like very much connected to body is something. It's a mechanism that it's a machine that is making you live. It's that. your perception of your body is impacting your mood, your work, your relationship. It's making you always feel I'm so bad. Like that is the constant thing that the voice inside you is on. No, this is not great. And you're spending hours working on it. Oh, you're losing. That might be a time to simply step back and reflect. If you think that it is to the extent that the internalized standards are so intense that you're not able to work by yourself, please reach out for professional help. There are clinical psychologists who are working
Yes,
with body.
yes.
There are so many. There's like body dysmorphic disorders and other like eating disorder. Like these are serious mental health stress at the earliest.
Thank you for that input as well, ma'am. So if it's okay, I'd like to just conclude the session by thanking Anupriya, ma'am, for these great insights
My
that you've given us
pleasure.
in terms of body image, in terms of how the society influences body images, and the kind of challenges that you face at work when you see clients with different needs, and you see them being affected by these societal values and societal beliefs that they just invite. So I just really like to thank you for coming here and telling us your experiences and what
My
you feel,
pleasure.
and absolutely about how there's so much that still needs to change. But if all of us did our part in bringing about that
The
acceptance and that
conversation has
open
to
mind,
keep going, like, that's all.
Yeah, but it was.
Nana, would you like to say anything to
I just
conclude?
want to really thank Anupriya for doing this. I know that from the very beginning, I've followed Howrah Bridge. Like I've gone and seen her exhibition. I've seen what kind of fashion she believes in, and I know that how much she believes in whatever she said today. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I am glad I could have this conversation because this is something that is very close to my heart, and I believe that more people should talk about it. Thank you, Ananya, for doing a good thing and trying to raise awareness about it because it's really necessary.
Yeah, I thank you for agreeing to this because these kind of conversations are so important. When we talk of fashion, I think this is probably at least I'm as much as I know, fashion doesn't always speak about these things. So this fashion
Yes,
held
yes,
this collaboration where we are now talking about looking at yourself differently from like these two
yes,
fashion have come together. This is a very unique experience for me also because when you see
absolutely.
not what happens, it's not what you see. So I'm very grateful here for this and for Mansi
Thank
also
you, guys. Yes,
uh, beautifully moderating it and for all the
yes,
people.
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for everybody who joined and who everybody who stayed to listen to us exploring body image today.
I think
And
the
I
video
think
will
the
be there in
recording.
both our profiles so people can obviously look back at it whenever they want to.
Yeah, we will. We will. Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, guys, bye.
bye. Have a good evening. Bye.